Hello, today I'll show you how to add enemies into the Space Invaders game in Scratch. As you can see, these are enemies, and if you attack them, and if successfully hit, then they will die, and give you points. And you can block their attack if you hit their projectile, like that. So let's get started. First, go into your game, and before the enemies, adding something to the player. So if we create a crater, as you can see that there is faintly different colored green. And to fix this, instead of just stamping once, make a block called stamp, run without screen refresh, replace it, and in here, repeat 15 or even more times. And this time, as you can see, there is a reduce in the faded pixels. So if we're doing double, then little to no faded pixels. Now, in the video's description, click it, which should take you here. Space Invaders Part 2 Assets. Now see inside, then click Backpack, and drag enemy into Backpack. And now going back, click Backpack, and drag enemy into the sprites area. And now in enemy, you should have all these costumes. Now, when green flag is clicked, create a new variable called enemy speed for this sprite only, and set enemy speed to 5. Now hide, and set size to 80. And now we create the army. Create a block called create army, and then add in an input called space and row, and run without screen refresh. Now for space, it's size divided by 100 times 30, and then 11 rows. Now go to, and now we calculate for the middle, which is row subtracted by 1, then multiplied by space, and divided by -2. And Y, go to 20. Now, switch costume to 01, which is Octopus 1. Then create two new variables called total enemies for all sprites, and type for this sprite only. Now set total enemies to 0, and set type to E for enemies. Now repeat 2 times, and then repeat 2 times again, and then repeat by row. Change total enemies by 1, create a clone of myself, and change X by space. And down here, set X to row subtracted by 1 times space divided by -2. And change Y by space. And then we go next costume and next costume again. And then down here, we repeat only once row and change and actually duplicate these. Change total enemies by 1, create a clone of myself, and change X by space. Then create another new variable called current enemy or enemies for all sprites, and set current enemies to total enemies, and set type to NC for not clone. And when I start as a clone, show. And now if you test it, as you can see, it'll create 2 rows of the same enemies, and then only at the top 1 row with a different enemy. Like this. Now, for the color, set brightness to 100 and create a new variable called animate for this sprite only, and set animate to 0. Now, if else, type equals E for enemies or enemy, then a forever, and now for the movement, create a new variable called timer for the sprite only, and change timer by 1 divided by 30, which is how fast Scratch runs, or the frame rates Scratch runs at. And now, as you can see, they are all the right color. And up here, set timer to 0. Now, if they were to move all the way down to here, then they'll turn green. So if else, and Y position is less than -70, then set brightness to 0, or actually to 100, and actually Y position is greater than -70, then set Y brightness effect to 0, else set brightness effect to 0, and set color to 55. So now, if they were to move down here, they will be green, else not green. Now, If the player hits them, make a new block called check hit by player, and in here place it down here, and in here, if touching player, then create a new variable called score for this sprite, actually for all sprites. Over here set score to 0, and now for the type we check if letter 1 of costume name equals O, then change score by 10. If letter 1 of costume name equals C, then change by 20. And if equal S, then change by 30. Then wait 0 seconds, which is still a wait. And now switch costume to die, change current enemies by -1 so that it makes the rest of the enemies go faster. And now play sound invader killed. Then wait 0.1 seconds and delete this clone. And now if you test it, as you can see, the invaders will be killed, just that the player's projectile does not be destroyed. So in player, repeat until touching edge or not touching player and touching the screen color, then add in a or touching enemy. And in here, and now if you test it, as you can see, it will work smoothly. Now, back in enemy for the movements. Now, if timer is greater than current enemies divided by total enemies, then change X by enemy speed. And now for animate, change animate by 1, set animate to animate mod 2, because there's only 2 frames for each of these. And now switch costume to letter 1 of costume name, and now we join letter 1 of costume name by animate +1. And now and make sure to set timer to 0. And now, as you can see, they will slowly move frame by frame. And if you were to kill more of them, or eliminate more of them, then they'll start to go faster and faster. As you can see, definitely a speed notice. And now going down. Now, if, and we create a new variable called y_boundary, for all sprites. And up here, set y_boundary to 200. And back here, if x position is greater than y_boundary, or x position is less than y_boundary times -1. So then if it's over here, it'll go over here, and vice versa. And now, in here, create a new variable called can down for all sprites, just to confirm if it isn't really down here, and set can down to 1, which means yes. And now broadcast new message, check all of y pause. And now when I receive check all of y pause, if type equals E, and now we check if y position is less than -80, then set can down to 0 and broadcast new message down. Now when I receive down, we check again if type equals E, and if so, set enemy speed to enemy speed times -1, and change x by enemy speed. And now if we check can down equals 1, then we change y by -10, and if it isn't, then it won't, but it will still go back and forth. And now if you test it, and wait for it to go to the edge, like that, as you can see, they will go down. Now, for the sounds for the marching, at the bottom of here, broadcast a new message called sound. And now when I receive sound, set timer to 0 just to realign all the enemies. And now if we check for type equals not clone, so that only one of them triggers this, then change animate by 1, which is just reusing the animate variable, and set animate to animate mod 4. And now we play sound animate plus 1. And now if you test, as you can see, there is a marching sound from the classic game in here. Now, with this, the projectiles of the enemy. Now, if pick random 1 to 1000, and then this is based on current enemies divided by total enemies, and divided by 2, but plus 0.5. So only influenced by half of this. And round it all. And if all of this equals 1, then set type to P for projectile, create a clone of myself, and then set type back to E so that it stays as an enemy. And now, if else if type equals P, then set animate to 0, then pick random 1 to 2, and if pick random 1 to 2 equals 1, then switch costume to B1, else switch costume to L1, which is laser 1 or beam 1, laser or lightning bolt. And now repeat until touching color and then the pillar color. And now change Y by -5 and change animate by 0.3 so that it doesn't go too fast. Then a if else, and we check which type of projectile it is by checking if letter 1 of costume name equals B, then set animate to animate mod 4, else set animate to animate mod 2. And lastly, the switch costume 2, and similar to how the enemy does it, join letter 1 of costume name, animate +1, which is practically the same as this. And make sure that it's round animate +1. And as you can see, now all of these projectiles are animated. And actually repeat until touching color or touching player or, and then Y position is less than -150. Now, after it does happen, switch costume to hit, then wait 0.05 seconds, clear all graphic effects, and switch costume to Blast Crater 2. And point in direction, pick random 1 to 2 times 180 subtracted by 90. And then create a new block called stamp, which uses the same technique for the player. And in stamp, repeat 30 times and stamp. And delete this clone. And now, if you test it, as you can see, when it hits that color, it will create a crater. And you can even shoot the projectiles to stop them. And now, lastly, for the spaceship to spawn for extra points, going back to check hit by player, and in here adding in a if, and now if score mod 250 is less than 30 and score is greater than 0, and then we add in another if, pick random 1 to 5 equals 1, then set type to SS for spaceship, and create a clone of myself. And now, in the last else, if type equals SS, then in here switch costume to SS, clear all graphic effects, then go to -240, 140, and now set enemy speed to 2. Now repeat until X position is greater than 240 or touching player. And in touching player and in here, change X by enemy speed. And then we check if touching player. Then by reusing a variable, set animates to pick random 1 to 6 times 50, which is a score range of 50 to 300, as you can see. And now change score by animate. Now by reusing another variable, enemy speed, set enemy speed to 1 and set type to letter. And now we're creating text that says, or that shows how much score you gained if you managed to hit the spaceship. And in costumes, we have all the digits for 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, and 300. And now, repeat length of animate, switch costume to letter enemy speed of animate, and change clone, and create a clone of myself. And now change X by size times, and if we were to look at the numbers, the largest X size would be 16, which means 0.16. And change enemy speed by 1. And delete this clone. And since none of the type is letter, then it'll go down here, which wait is 1 second, and delete this clone. And now, if you test it, as you can see, there is a spaceship. And if I manage to hit the spaceship, which I did not, as you can see, there is a spaceship. And if I try to hit it, which I did not again, as you can see, this is another spaceship. And if I try to hit it, as you can see, it will show how much I gained. Unless if it's too close to the edge, then it's hard to read. But now you have a working Space Invaders Part 2 in Scratch. But before you go, in players, adding in just a few tweaks. Instead of touching edge, change it to Y position greater than 140 and replace this one as well. Of course, when I start as a clone. And up here, if and then actually renaming Y boundary to X boundary, because it's the X axis boundary and not the Y boundary. And now if X position is greater than X boundary, or X position is less than X boundary times -1, and then change X by flipping key right with left and key left with right, so then you can't move off screen, and the projectile will explode up there, but it can still hit the spaceship. And now you have a nice working Space Invaders Part 2 in Scratch. Thank you for watching and have a fantastic day.